Welcome to the Embodied Wisdom Podcast.
Okay, so the question is, you went from being, a massage therapist, and
Yes.
that led you into the mystical realm, it sounds like. So
Yes.
I would love to know your journey from that to that.
Well, the reason why I became a massage therapist, my mom had been in a health, she was going to die when I was 17 years old. They gave her 6 months to live, and chiropractor found her and said, let's see what to do. And he put her on a 3-year program to clear up her diet. She first year was juicing, second year was nothing. I mean, nothing other than juicing. The second year was nothing other than homemade yogurt. And the third year, she went into vegetarian, and she came out of that as a healer, which I think she has always been, but that kind of blew the door open for her. And she had to have her massage license. So she was making like $20 an hour, and I was working at a department store for 4. And it sounded like a really good deal for me to make to be
Yeah, to
making
go from
$20
four
an
to
hour.
20. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like, it's a no-brainer. And so I really didn't know what I was doing. But when I got out of I got my certificate, we opened up a business together. She actually invited me into her business. And I fell in love with the human body. And it started to speak to me. I had no idea about anything, that kind of esoteric, that type thing. I was raised religious, so that was like a total no. You don't talk about voices in your head. You don't talk any of that stuff. And little by little, like I kept being introduced to different teachers and kinesiology and, you know, muscle testing, what that was. And that opened a whole door for me around one brain and understanding that we lived before and everything, it was like progressive for me. Like every time I went and I pursued the classes like crazy. And then the teachers started to come to me because I had 3 little kids and I didn't travel much. So they would come to the clinic that my mom and I opened and they would teach me and I mentored that way.
Mm, I love that. Yeah. So what then was it, or at what point did you dip into like mediumship and channeling? When did that happen for you?
That happened in 1990, and I was training under a therapist that was teaching me how to do inner child workshops.
Hmm.
And the first workshop, because we would have a weekend workshop, and he said, I want your mom to come to the first one, not you. And I was like, okay, that makes sense, right? And so they recorded what her session was about. And they both had asked me, can you listen to this, but without the kids around? And I was like, okay, great. But it was her she wasn't abducted by extraterrestrials, but they were there, one on one side, one on the other. She was paralyzed. She was screaming like crazy. And a voice came up in me while I'm listening to this that said, I did not do that. It was a male voice. We did not do that. And I was like, I have no idea what that is. I thought I was schizophrenic. Um, and I did a session with that therapist and an energy came up, a being came up actually that I channeled for about 4 or 5 years and healing a timeline that he had here, with actually a group that I had just met that were where I live now. I was in Pennsylvania at the time, and now I'm in upstate New York. And they were all from upstate New York that found me like 2 weeks before he came in, before that energy came in. And they were all in his community, and there was a catastrophe, and he needed to heal it. So that started the whole thing and I
So, so
trained
you're saying whatever happened with your mom and you, was that related? So it sounds like was she put in, were you either one of you put in a hypnotic state, or how did this all work? How did this come about?
He wasn't necessarily a hypnotist, but I think he relaxed her enough. And this was done in a group of people, so it wasn't, on a one-to-one. Um, I think that's how, and then they recorded it because I think he thought that it was important for me to know what she had gone through. My mom was a walk-in, like that's a whole
Oh.
thing. Yeah, when she passed when she was 11, and they had the sheet over her, and it was a ruptured appendix, and she woke up from that. And so she remembers a little girl like rolling into her body, and then she woke up. So she's always had that kind of energy around her.
Mm-hmm. So when you're saying that he put her in a relaxed state, any relaxed state puts you in some sort of state of hypnosis, maybe
Yeah,
not in deep trance,
not deep trance.
right? So he relaxes her enough to get her in, an altered brain state, and then he gets her to come how did he know that she had this information? Because not a lot of people can channel. Or
Yeah,
at least, especially not, I don't know this time period, but especially not at that time period if we're talking 90s.
90s. So how did he know that she only knows that she had this dream that was a nightmare and she wanted to understand it.
Okay.
And so that turned into what they recorded. But she had lost time before that.
Hmm.
She had lost like hours. She would find herself laying down somewhere and she doesn't remember getting there and that type thing. She's always had that kind of sideways.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ex-
And an interesting relationship with time.
yes.
Yeah. Okay. And then both you and her get into the channeling thing together? No.
No, I lived in two worlds for 20 some years because who I worked with and my mother and everything else were still very straight and
So
narrow.
even though she had that experience,
No, she she loved the people that she worked on and who they were, and they were mostly from that religion, right? So she really enjoyed that, and she was funny as anything, and they loved her, and she did a lot of healing with them and everything. But to move into that place of the channeling piece, I think I think it just scared her. She never tried to shut me down around it, and I never really opened up to her in a big way about it.
so it was, yeah, I see what you mean is like your two worlds. You're kind of keeping that part from her because she didn't think she was open to it.
Right. And yet she knew she was a walk-in and whatever. I think it was just a way that she felt safe.
Hmm. So what is that? How did that carry into what you do today?
So that moved into being a mediator for them because after about 4 or 5 years, the one being developed into bringing more. So there was a council of 12, but there was 9 individuals on the council. They left 3 seats open. And when I would do my meditation, they would take me to what they call the council room.
Hmm.
It was a teaching facility. And the more I talked, like I could record it, or I had somebody actually that was was doing she was my scribe, I call her, and she would take notes because when I would talk, it would move. Like I was there and I could see things moving and this is happening and that's happening. And it was very much that was like 20 some years that they did that with me on a regular basis.
It sounds
And
kind of like remote viewing.
I was present there. I guess some of it, I guess it would be, but I was involved there in not just they instructed me to go through past lives while I was there. They gave me information about ancient history while I was there. But they also would invite me down because there was a large illuminated table in the middle of this council room where they would meet. And occasionally I would be there. Plus, one or two of my incarnations were part of that council. So, yeah, it was mind blowing
Yeah.
for a long period of time. And I really didn't talk to many people about it because it was like hush hush.
I bet not, because back in the 90s, this is not common stuff. Now we hear it all the time, but
I know it's great,
um
grateful.
yeah, but back in the 90s, certainly that was not a language people spoke, right?
No, no, it was not accepted at all. You were and how I was raised, it was considered demonistic. It was considered, like
Witchcraft.
all witchcraft, all of that. But I was more curious than anything else about what was this about and where was it going to take me? And wow, you can tap into other people's lives and, you
Mhm.
know, was that.
Yeah. And so how do you work with people now? Who comes to you and what do they come to you for and how do you help them?
So because I was curious about everything, so I went to learn imago work to become a relationship, counselor. I went and did nutritional counseling. I went and learned about herbs. I went and learned about homeopathy, like whatever my clients needed. It was like, wait a minute, wait a minute. I need to know something. So I would find out how to learn more about that.
Mm-hmm.
And so now, like people will come to me if they've been for the medical intuitive piece, which never really stays as the medical intuitive
Right.
place to start, but it's not necessarily where it stays. And so they will come, they've been to doctors or they've been, diagnosed with something, but they want more clarity. Where did this originate from? Is there any blockages about it? Is there any past lives about it? What can I address and work through to unblock? Or nutritional, if they needed herbs or dietary change. Um, so that's one piece, but when I run through the body as the medical intuitive, I get percentages. Like I'll say, oh, your liver is 85%. Let's take a look at that after I go through. And sometimes that's emotional. Well, where's that emotional? It relates to you at age 5, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is what's going on. Or no, there's a past life there that has to do with your mother this lifetime, blah, 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 right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's woven. I see people usually for the hour, and it's a lot of their life is woven into what makes clarity for them, how they can be clear about something. They ask a lot of questions and it just unfolds.
Hey, Tammy Cox here. If you're ready to stop repeating painful relationship patterns and finally create the love and connection you deserve, there is a way. Click the link in the description to schedule a call with me and let's talk about what's really holding you back. Now, back to the show. Yeah, that's so interesting. I got a past life regression like a month or so ago. And I went in with the intention of like, I wanted to know why I couldn't break through my glass ceiling kind of thing.
Mhm.
Like what? And I was taken to a previous lifetime where I was a man, a knight,
Oh,
and my husband in this lifetime was my son in that lifetime. And I went to the moment I died and I was being stabbed in the heart by
oh,
like my best friend, right? And I was like, that's so interesting because in this lifetime, I've such an interesting relationship with friends.
uh-huh.
So it
Same
it
them.
it it connected things for me of like, oh, how come a lot of my really close friendships end abruptly and seemingly for no reason, like this catastrophic, like, and so it just, I don't know, it made so much sense to me. We didn't dig in all that deep on that lifetime, but it kind of, and then my husband said to me, he's like, no wonder you treat me like your kid.
Kid. Say, well, there's other reasons, honey, but it's not just that, right?
Yes, exactly. But I just find it fascinating how, like you said, we're woven together and it's lifetime after lifetime because as physics shows us, there's no such thing as time and space. It's all
Right.
now.
It's
And
all that.
so if we think about all of those lives kind of affecting us now, then what someone like you could do is be like, hey, let's turn off this thing, you know?
Ew, that's timeline architecture. You can go
Yes.
back and you can shift it. And what happens with that is when you shift it, because you're moving the energy to say, I don't want that to happen. Let me address that person that just stabbed me. Let me do whatever that is, right? You can't circumvent the death in that lifetime, but you can move things in a different direction, right?
Ooh,
So you
please
move
tell
it
me
in.
how.
Well, what comes up is it'll come up like, oh, this is what's happening. You need to say this, this, and this, or you need to do this one exercise or whatever. And then it shuts down because
Mhm.
we can only work on a little bit at a time. Then what happens is that individual lives their life, but they have to look at the synchronicity that's coming in that may have to do with that lifetime, because it'll start to bleed into your present lifetime. That
Mm.
person may show up that wasn't in your lifetime before. You may have dreams that involve something, right? And then you'll be guided back into, oh, now we can pick it up again. Is there anything else in that timeline, in that past life that you want to change?
Mm.
It integrates it, it changes something in this lifetime, and it relieves whatever you've been carrying. So you're not carrying the dynamics or the wow, that was my husband, or that was my son. How was that relationship? Does that need to change? That'll change this one.
Yes. Interesting. Gosh. I had this experience with one of my friends that we were on I think it was my marketing guy, and I was flexing my arms because I like to lift weights, and I was flexing, just being silly. And he was like, no wonder you work out so much, because you had a violent dad that you were scared of that hurt you. And so of course you lift weights and you have to stay strong. And it really got me thinking. I'm like, yes, that makes so much sense, that I have to be very muscular. Like, that's important for me to lift weights and be really strong, because I did have a dad that I was scared of, and that he was very violent.
Yeah.
And my family was very violent. I grew up fighting. That was normal. And
Right.
so no wonder I do that, right?
Yeah.
So if I were looking to clear something like that, how could I do that for myself? Or would I need?
So you're looking at, so this is a present day issue, right? This dad.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, this dad? Oh, yeah. As in this lifetime, he's dead.
This lifetime.
Yeah, he died when I was 11.
Okay. So you go back to the age of, I would say, so he died when you were 11. I would say probably 8 to 9, when you were 8 or 9. And what I find that is, people will go, okay, so write a letter, say goodbye to, do Ho'opono and forgive. But what I find is that when there's been any kind of aggression or invasion or any history of like accidents or anything like that, the body splits off. The body consciousness split, and it doesn't trust. So it's not like you don't trust, your body doesn't trust.
Right.
And so going back to that time and say, 8 or 9, what would my body want to do with the man that is scaring me? Like,
Mm.
what is that? It's not usually verbal.
Yeah.
It's because your body can only do action. It's
Is
not
it,
a,
it's physical.
it's very physical.
Okay.
So if you're a weightlifter and that little girl becomes a weightlifter, what does she do? Because this is also where your imagination comes in. You can do
Mm.
anything in this timeline piece, right? So anything that you're changing, you can be and do anything. So, but that little girl, that age, if there's a specific situation that comes up, he did this to me, or I saw him hit my mom or whatever, what does your body want to do? Very different than what you would say.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, my body would want to fight.
Yes. Yeah. And there's nothing
My
like I
body still, my darling, my body still wants to fight all the time.
because you were like, what is that? That is your self-protection, you
Yeah.
know, and you're going to keep that strength up. And if you were a knight in another lifetime, or how many lifetimes were you a male or a fighter or any of that? So in this body might be relatively new as a woman, but
Mhm.
you're still going to have the strength. You're still going to show whoever's aggressive with you that no, I'm not going there.
Yeah. I used to, like, my mom used to tell me, I think it's so interesting too. My mom used to tell me, because I would wear provocative clothing when I was younger, and my mom used to say, "Don't wear that or else you're going to get raped." And I remember thinking, I would love to see them try.
Yep.
So it's so interesting. And I'm like, I think it maybe this is maybe I haven't been a female in a couple of rounds, or maybe I have a lot more. I've always felt that I had like a lot of masculine energy,
Mhm.
even though I look feminine in the face, but it's just so interesting how we are us. But like, I'm sure when you see or feel an individual, because I'm very intuitive too, I can be with a person and I know their whole personality before they say a word.
Mhm.
So I'm sure that you just have, because you've refined that skill of yours, I'm sure you could just read people like a book, including their whole beingness, all the
Yeah,
lifetimes.
try not to do that when I'm looking at because people say, you know something that I don't know. What is it? And I'm like, oh, you're not telling me. And I'm like, I don't look for people, I'm pretty trustworthy. But what I want to say about that is you may be, because many women are in this timeline that we're living in, have the template for the divine feminine, which is both the divine masculine and the divine feminine. So it's not like you have to choose one or the other. You're blending them together, which is, when you think of the Egyptian gods, it's like Sekhmet, right? She's
Mm.
the goddess of war, right? And she will go against anybody. And then you have Isis that isn't that. So it's the combination of how do you stop making it separate?
Yeah, the integration process. It's
Yes.
the same as, like you're saying, it's the same as integrating the shadow with the light within you.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that toxic positivity is just as damaging as not doing your inner work, kind of saying, oh, there's no dark here.
Yeah.
It's like, what? That's not even possible. Are you kidding me? We all have dark, we all have light, and it's all about the flow. Like you said, that the divine masculine and feminine, fem divine masculine, divine feminine. There we go. And it's that equal parts. And it's so funny because that's a lot of what I'm getting from my guidance system is I'm at this point where I'm integrating both my masculine and feminine um equally, like mirroring each other. And
Yes.
I'm like, oh, thank goodness. Because for so long it felt like there was a fight inside of me.
And there's no need for that battle. That
Right.
is, when we can love and accept the parts of us that we don't really like, or that's the darker parts of us, it no longer can stay in that box. That's
Yeah.
the same thing with relationships. I did a video the other day. It's like, why are men always wrong? Right? Like there's you're with somebody and you're going like, oh my God, he's so stupid, he's this or that. It's those thoughts in your head or whatever that keeps them in a box. And then
Yes.
you can't get out of it till you change your perception.
Yes. Judgment is so strong, we don't realize.
Yeah,
Our judgments towards other people keeps them the same.
it,
Absolutely.
it does.
I practice that. I grew up in San Diego, moved to Arizona 4 years ago. Big part of my healing journey was getting out of there and coming here and detaching. But I just came back from San Diego to visit, and every time I do, there's triggers.
Yeah,
They get less and less, thankfully, but I get to look at them and do some inner work and say, "Hey, what's this?
yeah,
What do I get to look at now? What parts of me do
yeah.
I need to really love on?" And so I forgot where I was going, but I
I
think,
think reflection is a big thing for
yeah,
people. If they could say, the world is reflective for us, right? Our relationships are. What is it that we judge, we don't like, whatever that is, criticize or whatever. What is that saying about why are we getting triggered?
absolutely,
And where did that happen? Or whose pattern it is, because it may not even be ours,
absolutely,
right? It's how you're brought up and how you were raised in the culture and the religion and whatever that is to look at things a certain way. It's taking stock of who you have been and do you really want to be that person?
absolutely. I grew up in religion, so breaking out of that for me was like the like That was like my awakening period of saying, "Oh my gosh, it's not just this one way." Like I've been thinking so in this box of like, here's how we see everything.
Yeah.
And go ahead. And I picked up the box and I took it. I was like, "Okay, this is my reality too." I took it on,
Yeah.
right? Because it was the system I was downloaded with. But when I realized how the human mind works and that how we're programmed, I was like, that wasn't mine.
No, no.
Right? That was never mine. And it allowed me to grow beyond that and to just look at things differently and be like, well, if I'm not in this fear-based system of, hey, do this list or else you're going to this one place to burn for eternity. Once that was off the table and I determined that that was false, everything opened up for me.
Yes. Yeah, because you can allow it,
Right.
you can allow it and accept that there's something out there. And it takes a long time. I mean, it is a part of brainwashing,
Yeah.
and it takes a long time to get over the guilt of not doing what they said, or what if they're right, right? What if they're right and what I'm doing right now, my kids are going to get killed, I'm going to be killed,
Yeah.
it's all of that. You have to work through all of it.
Yeah. So I'd love to know, because you do so many things. I would love to know a little bit more about the medical intuitive stuff.
So I always had a fascination with the body. My mom was always sick, probably because of the stress. I mean, her mother tried to kill her twice
Wow.
when she was little, under 6. And,
Was she mentally unwell, the mother?
I never met her. And my mom, when she threw her out in the snow with no coat and no anything in a blizzard, she was 6. That was the last time. And the courts asked my mother, "Do you ever want to see your mother again?" She said no. So I really never knew what the instability was. I mean, she threw 3 kids out, but my mother was the oldest.
So
And
the other ones were like, ah, yes, I have to imagine that she had some severe mental stuff going on.
I would agree with you. Um, so my mom was a fighter. I mean, she broke a kid's nose at 9 years old because they picked on her brother.
Yeah. That
And
was that was me.
that was, yeah, that street kid. Um,
Mhm.
so I forget what you asked me, Tammy.
I think you were telling me how you got into the medical
Oh,
intuition.
the medical. So I was always curious about why my mom was always in the hospital and I was never allowed to go in.
Oh.
So I was 9 or 10 and I faked lockjaw.
How
I
did you even know to do that?
I had no idea. My mother was a seamstress at the time, and she had tacks on the floor. And, she was in the living room, had tack, and I stepped on one. And I woke up the next morning and I have a way of putting my drawer to the side like this, and I got attention. So I was like, what does this mean? Oh, wow. So she's calling up the doctor, my daughter stepped on a tack and this and that. And we had an old ancient, well, probably it was not ancient at the time, a doctor's book, right? And she's reading this and she puts it on the counter and I'm looking at it and it says fatal. And I'm like, fatal. It's fatal. What is fatal? And I'm like, oh, it's fatal. Yeah, I got something that's going to be fatal. And so they put me in the hospital for 4 days, but all I did was wander. I wandered around the hospital. I saw the kids ward. There was a young kid that was hit by a car. There was another one that was 2 years old that was in a crib. I was just fascinated by, oh, this is what it looks like inside. Yeah. And they
That
were going to do a brain scan, but the nurse was like, what I want to tell you, Charlotte, that was my mom's name. What I want to tell you is that every time that you leave, her jaw goes back to normal. I didn't know to hold it that way the whole time. It was like, oh yeah, it's my fine. I need to, yeah. So
That's so good.
yeah. So that there was always that fascination. So as a medical intuitive, I think because I wanted to study, I opened up a massage school and taught anatomy and physiology. And that really kind of put it in place. I wanted to know why humans and how they ticked. And I wanted to see an autopsy actually. When I first got into this, like, can I go see an autopsy? I want to see what's inside the body.
That's fascinating, and not normal, I will say. Most of us are repulsed when we see anything that's supposed to be inside out. But interesting. So you were just so fascinated. You were like, I want to see what's inside. Like, what makes this thing like what
Yeah.
animates it?
What
Like
makes it, yeah. And how does it think, you know,
it's
and
so
how is it
yeah,
all
it's so
connected?
fascinating because I feel like that I was so fascinated by human behavior. Why do we do these things? Why do we have these patterns? And even though we're miserable, we still do the damn patterns. I was so intrigued by human beings and all that. And so that's how I got into this. So I can understand the fascination with like, show me the inside of a human body.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah. Yeah.
let's bust open that head and look at the brain.
Yeah.
Right? Because doctors think that way. Like doctors are fascinated with whatever they do. I'm guessing they'd have to be to do what they do.
Yeah, I would imagine that they do. I had no interest in doing anything medical like that because it was too confining. You know, I don't want to be stuck. This is what you do and that's all you do.
No way. Okay, so give me a story of as a, medical intuitive, give me a story or a case, or can you, that really stood out to you?
This was a combination of it was well, there's two. The one case was my first case when I came back from kinesiology. She made up her name apparently because it was a famous name. And she came into the clinic where I was working and she said that we tracked it back and she was 12 years old and she burned down her house. And instead of her parents punishing her, they gave her a bike. So I'm working on let's change that and let's go before the court. Well, she pulls a knife out. She jumps off the table and she pulls a knife out to my throat. This is in real life. And she's running like this. She's running it
How
across.
old is she?
She's in her 20s. And she said, "Are you afraid yet? Are you afraid?" And I said, "No." And she said, "You sure you're not afraid?" And I don't know where it came from. I was just like, "No, I'm not." She got back on the table and we finished the session. So, there's things like things like that that can happen. But the woman came
That
in
is that is a very interesting story.
and she was my first
So,
session.
so you're working on her. This is your very first session, and she pops up off the table and finds a knife and holds it to your throat.
Yeah, she had a pen knife. It wasn't a big knife. It was a pen knife.
Oh, it
She
was
threw it
small.
out.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a small knife,
Oh,
but she's
just like a
holding it.
small little what are they called? Can't remember.
Switchblade
Yeah, like yes,
with probably a little
a pocket
smaller,
knife.
like a
Yeah.
pocket knife type thing, but it was sharp.
Dang. Okay, what was her point, do you think, of doing that?
I don't know if because she never came back. She never told me who sent her. I have no idea who she was or even how she got in my book. Um, so I think on some level, was that supposed to redirect me? Or was it supposed to show me that I could handle something like that without screaming and crying and, going hysterical? And I did, but it
Or
holds me
maybe it was like,
together.
oh, more trauma work to do.
Yeah, like that. Yeah. You know,
Wow.
but
Ah,
it did teach me like when there's a crisis, you just stay centered. That's what you
yeah.
do. Stay centered and you do whatever you need to do to move the crisis along or hold the space for it while it continues to do what it needs to do. But there was one woman, she came in, she was trying to get pregnant and she was adopted. And so she was looking for her birth mother. And she, during the process, we went back to conception And I said, do you know anything about your conception? She goes, absolutely not. But she started getting dizzy. And we found out that, oh, I think that your mother she was drunk and she got, she got pregnant and therefore, they're young. It felt like it was in the backseat of a car. I think it was even a truck. And she found her mother like 6 months later. And that is how she got pregnant because the body knows. Like I
Yeah.
trust anybody's body implicitly because it does know the truth of anything that you ask it.
Well, all three of my children probably would get dizzy if we took them back to conception, because
Oh boy.
that's how mommy rolls.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's hilarious. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And you are so right. When we trust the body implicitly, like if we go into disease, right?
Hmm.
It's always emotion there. It's always stuck, old, stagnant emotion and always goes back years and years. It's never fresh.
No,
It's
it's
never
the
fresh.
beauty
It's
of
always it's always solid, like old, stuck, negative emotion trapped in the body.
right. So if you take a look at if we taught our children that as they're growing up, if there's something that negative happens to you, speak about it, move through it, but do whatever there's plenty of tools out there, right? Because then it doesn't become accumulative. If you don't talk about it or release it, it'll move into the dream state or it'll move into attracting something to you. And then it moves deeper if you don't handle it. So 8 years,
Yep.
10 years later, it moves in. And eventually, if it's still not handled, it moves into a pattern of behavior and addiction and a disease.
Hmm. I I tell my kids, I because before I went on my healing journey, I had passed on a lot. I had furthered the patterns that I learned, right? And a big reason why I chose to heal myself, right? So I knew my kids had stuff that they need to work through. And my daughter, she didn't want to talk to me. I'm like, listen, I want you to get this out in any way, shape, or form. So I had her write a letter. And I said, don't worry, you don't have to show me if you don't want to. You can burn it, because she felt bad because I wasn't that old person anymore, you know? And
Yeah.
so it was almost like, and I see a lot of people doing this, by the way. They don't want to get the anger out that they had towards their parents, but that old version of them still has that.
Yes, it
And it's
does.
like, we got to move it out. You can't think, oh, but they did the best they could. Yes, all that is true.
Yeah.
But there is still a little version of you inside of you that is holding on to the contempt. So you got to get it out. And I told her, you can write it all out. And I want you to be as detailed as possible. Tell me everything, get it all out. And then if you don't want to give it to me, I want you to light it on fire. And I
Yep.
want you to burn it up. I want you to have a ceremony. I want you to release it. And I
Mhm.
want you to say, I bind this agreement. I've released this and I hold on to it no more. And I think it's really helped her,
Oh,
since
yeah.
that moment, just to release, because we don't, we don't all, what I see with a lot of people is that they don't have direct access to a lot of their emotions. They are so shut down that it's hard for them to even get to the emotions. And so whatever we can find, do you have any other little tips and tricks that people could do to release?
The goodbye process. I'll
Okay.
have to do. So it's probably very similar to what you do, but there's 4 parts to it. It's usually about a relationship or, a long-term relationship. If the relationship is still going on, but you want to change it, right? So the first part, and it's a written one. So it's I say goodbye to each sentence. The first part is I say goodbye to, and each individual thing that was negative in the relationship. Say goodbye to the time that you said this to me, whatever comes up. Like it
Mm,
doesn't have to be, oh, what was the first thing that happened? No, it's whatever comes up, whatever that flow is. Second part is I say goodbye to, and it's all the positive that was in that relationship. Third part is I say goodbye to, and it's all the hopes and dreams that you had of that relationship. And the fourth part is I release you, whatever the name is, from my past, my present, and my future. If the relationship is totally gone, that's the one thing that you say. But if it's still apparent, right? If it's still mom or dad that you're working with, but you want the past to be more distant, then it's I release you, mom or dad, from my past, my present, and my future as I have been with you,
Mm.
so that it can continue. You're not totally
Yeah.
discarding the whole thing. But that has really worked a lot for people. And that Ho'oponopono.
Oh, that works so good.
It is. And doing it with
Oh,
your body. Talk about the medical intuitive
do it
piece.
with your body?
Absolutely.
Like what, swaying?
No, the Ho'opono is the I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, and thank you.
Yeah. But you said do it with the body?
Yeah, no, okay. Do it to your body is probably the better thing.
Oh,
If you've had
like
abuse, if
give
you've
it
had
to your body.
surgeries, if you've had,
Mm.
find the date, not the specific date, but I was 6 when that happened. I was 10 when that happened, right? Fell down the steps when I was 12 or 13. I was molested at 3, like whatever those things are, you see that little girl or boy, and you go with, as your adult, I am sorry that happened to you.
Mm-hmm.
Please forgive me for not being able to protect you. Please, or whatever you want to say as the adult speaking to that child or younger part. I love you and thank you for being so resilient that
Mm-hmm.
you stuck with me all these
Oh, I
years.
love that.
Yeah.
I love that because I do a lot of inner healing with my clients.
Uh-huh.
And I have them get a lot out in each session, but it's like it could be more simple.
Yeah. And assignments are good, Yes. I mean, you probably offer them a lot in the time that you see them, but I find that people that go every week or whatever to a therapist or whatever, the one, and this is not about you at all, but what I find is that some therapists, if you've been going there for 4 or 5 years, they think they know you so well that they don't dive any deeper. It's just about, oh, what happened this week? And it doesn't really move it.
Yeah, I don't think that talk therapy does much of anything. I mean, this is just modern science now. Talking about a problem does not fix the problem. If there's not a different modality other than just talking about the problem, I don't think the problem's going anywhere. I think that most therapy is a sham because you keep going back. Like if you
Right.
go back for 12 years is the average talk therapy transformation. I'm like, that doesn't work. I work with my clients 3 months. Now,
Mhm.
sometimes they need longer, right? If they've had a very abusive marriage, if they've had a lot of trauma, then
Yeah.
they're going to need longer than that. But that you don't, if I'm not doing my job, if I'm holding on to you for years and years, like
Yeah.
that's not what I want.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
So the deep work, and that's why I say I'm always looking for the way to go the deepest, the fastest, so that we don't have to come back for years and years.
No. And once, when somebody gets it, like whether it's a past life or here's your pattern, this is how it relates to your childhood. Here it is growing in your relationship. Here it is in your business. Like here it is. Like let's grok the whole thing. Once they get it, something shifts because they finally realize, oh, like this is, even if they don't get it at the moment, like I get people that call me like a year later and go, I am still working on what you said, and my life has changed, right? My life is different. Um, and that's what it's all about, right? Is helping people to change if they choose to.
It's a big one if they choose to, because it's so sad for me sometimes when I lead that horse to water and it doesn't want to drink.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have to learn how to let it go and not take it on, right, Tam?
Yep,
Yeah.
that's exactly right. That's been probably one of the hardest things. I have a massive savior complex, which is something I've been working on for a lifetime, Darlene. A
Well,
lifetime.
maybe you have been a savior in many lifetimes.
I probably have,
Think about right.
but this one I'm just really working on letting it go. And because what I found is like I have attracted some very injured birds and I want to take care of the bird and I want to nurse it back to health. Well, that doesn't work out really great for me, Darlene.
No, I can imagine that it wouldn't.
It doesn't. And then when I started doing this work and working so intimately with people, I noticed that I didn't have the energy to do that for people who were not paying me in
Oh,
friendships and other relationships. So it was me learning my boundaries, knowing my worth, and saying, hey, I am looking for my friends to be my peers and above,
yeah.
not underneath, not my work. Those are the people who are paying me for a service. And so that's been a really big part of my growth, is knowing my value enough to be like, no, this actually costs a lot of money what I'm
Yeah.
doing for
Yeah.
you, and I'm not
Yeah.
going to do it for free. So having those boundaries, have you had that experience?
Coming into this field, I would say that it lasted for quite a while. It still happens occasionally, but I stopped going to parties because they would corner me like, hey, I got this pain here. Could you tell me what that's about? Or, oh, my stomach hurts really. Do you know what? It was like, it'd be 15 minutes here, it'd be half hour here. I like never saw anybody that
You
I really.
should have just brought the calendar and said, you put your
Here we
name
go.
down and go ahead and put a deposit down for your, because I
Correct.
actually don't do free readings. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you stopped going to events, huh?
I did. I mean, it would be different now. I only have like maybe one or two people, and they're within a certain group that do that. But yeah, it's not something that happens that often, thank goodness. I think that they see the look on my face like, you gotta be kidding me. Right?
Yeah. I mostly love talking about, like, obviously the conversation we're having now. I love talking about this stuff, but the average person in the world would not be having this conversation with me.
And I hear that so much, but like I run groups and I work with people that want this. So the outside world feels very strange to me when it's like
Because
you
you've
talk to
created
someone.
your own circle.
Yeah, I guess because I'll be talking, I'll just talk naturally to somebody and they glaze over. Like even my sister,
Oh, yeah.
she doesn't ask anything about what I do, which is
That's my whole family, Darlene. If they knew about the things I do, they would just not ever want to talk to me.
yeah, yeah.
So it's really cool that you've created a little circle for yourself that you can have these conversations, because for me, this is a major way that I get to have the conversations. I mean, I have some people in my life, don't get me wrong, but it is not the majority of people in my life. It's the very
No,
small little portion.
no,
Um,
I do think that we need more of that. So it is about testing the waters in some way to say, oh, here's a new person or whatever. What do you believe? Or this is what I do, or this is what, and they're either going to go, well, that's interesting, or they're going to go, oh, what did the Mets do today? It's like,
the weather, the funniest
what's
part
the
is the
weather?
weather. That's
Yeah.
that's my mom's favorite thing. Oh, what's the temperature out there in Arizona? She
I,
loves to switch to the
well,
weather or something else very shallow. I'm
yeah,
like, oh, there's our boundary.
yeah.
Yeah, it's so funny. Okay, please let everyone know where they can find you, where they can find your work.
So soulunion.com is my website. There is a group that I run the third Sunday of every month called Cosmic Travelers. It's where I bring in the evolves, which has been from that first being that comes through. And so they've evolved with me. So after 35 years, they're now called the evolves. And so we do work that's either individual with the people that are there.
Mhm.
It's not either. They get individual work as well as they work on something that's global. So we're bringing in Lemurian heart for the next couple months and seeing what that does. Yeah. Um, so there's that. And you can find out more and interviews and whatever else on the website.
Yay. Thank you so much for coming on. I've enjoyed this conversation immensely.
There's more to come, right, Tam? And
Yeah, there's way more to come.
yeah. Thank you for having me.
Yes, of course, Darlene. It was my pleasure.